Welcome to Journey to Joy Live, a podcast to promote wellness, resilience, and inspire joy. Be empowered to balance your mental, physical, financial, aspirational, and social health while providing mental health awareness and breaking down the stigma of mental illness in the Black community. I'm your host, Dr. If Joy, and I'm here to help you transform life's challenges into opportunities for joy. Let's begin the journey together. Hello.
Hey, okay.
Yes. Okay, intro. We are in episode 137, Black Love, Black Healing, Black Joy, the embrace. Let me see, that went down too fast. The embrace approach to wellness and resilience. Hello, and I have Dr. Riana Elyse Anderson. She's assistant professor in Columbia University. Oh, duh, Columbia's in New York. I'm over here thinking you
Actually,
in Chicago.
associate. I messed up. Associate
Oh,
professor. That's okay. You're just
how dare you?
I
Associate's
didn't
way
see
better
that.
than assistant.
Associate. My bad. Anywho, get on
I
it.
know that because I used to be academic, so I know how big that is. You are associate and licensed clinical psychologist. So awesome to have you.
Thank you. So good to be here.
Yeah, so we know each other from college. I feel like I probably haven't spoken to you since then.
It's been a journey. That's why we're here. We're journeying.
I know she's out here doing her thing. We're both doctors, both in the mental health profession. So it's just awesome to have you on here. And this is Black History Month. A couple days from now is Valentine. So I said, I got to mix all the black love and the black
Love it.
research together. So we just going to jump in. So what are you doing over there? Tell us about your research. How did you get into it? All the things.
Yeah. So right now there are three spaces that I'm working in. The first one is through this program called Embrace, which,
Yeah.
you lovingly put in the title. So we love that little name recognition. So Embrace means engaging, managing, and bonding through race. It's a family based program where if you've had the talk with your family and you know what it is to talk about race and racism, we're just here training therapists to be more competent to have those conversations with you. And then for you to unpack some of that stress, some of that frustration and gain some more skills when you're talking to your kiddos. So Embrace is the first thing that we're doing. We're kicking it off in 2 weeks. So if you're a Black
Mm.
family in New York and you want some resources, come and holler at me. Yay.
Oh, that's awesome.
So that's one thing. Then we're
Uh-huh.
also moving into the tech space. So taking things like Embrace and other strategies to have families have that talk, but really removing the middle people. So we're getting
Mhm.
the parents out of here. I'm the therapist on the app. And so we're
Mm.
these technological innovations to get the services to young people directly. So
Mhm.
testing some of those app-based approaches in the VR work that we're doing as well.
Mhm.
And last but certainly not least, I am working on some research that will be a book on psychological reparations. So
Ooh.
how do we consider the reparatory approach
Mhm.
to the long-standing racism that has impacted Black people? How do we ensure that we get what is due us?
Mm,
So
mm, mm.
that's what we're up to.
Gosh, I want a sneak peek. So when is that gonna come out? Do you know?
Girl, let me write it and then I got you. I'm in the proposal phase right now, so just praying that, the environment, the administrative environment that we're in that is on the one hand saying racism doesn't exist, right? Or like if we
Mhm.
experience racism, we shouldn't even be thinking about it. But on the other hand, they're saying, oh, white people are the actual victims of racism right now. So we're in a very interesting time where I'm not sure how well received this book will be, but Imma write it, and that's that on that.
That's the thing, you don't worry about that because somebody's gonna love it, and if
Yeah,
you got some haters, it means you're doing something right,
that's
so,
right, that's right.
it is what it is. Yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be nice, you release it around Juneteenth, so there's your deadline right there.
Yes, okay, well, let me write that down. Yes, ma'am. Mhm.
So you mentioned the talk. Obviously, we're not talking about the birds and the bees and talking about it to our kids about sex. You're talking about the talk. What is the talk that you need?
But you know what? Like, I'll take that as a kickoff, right? Because that is something that is a more universal way that we think about parents being stressed out about this really big thing. How are we gonna talk to our kids about something so big? And it's always conceptualized across race, across SES, across all of these different
Mhm.
identities, like, there's this big to-do. So even when we call the talk that happens with families of color often about race and racism, I actually
Mhm.
kinda push back on that because 'cause I'm like, "Well, really, it's about the walk and, like, these other things that we need to do. How do we show it? How do we demonstrate it?" It's not just one time. It's not us having a big sit down. It's a consistent practice that we have on Mondays when we're dropping it at the dinner table or when we turn on the TV having a
Mhm.
eye to the types of questions that we need to be asking of the media and of ourselves. If
Yep.
you see me upset after I get pulled over, knowing I need to process this with my child who's watching this entire observation, it's more than just one talk. It really
Yeah.
is a series of conversations and behaviors and emotions that we are processing with our little ones who are witnessing this world that we're in sometimes more than we know that
Yeah.
we are, right?
Yeah, and being able to recognize it, because I
Yeah,
feel like I was oblivious all this not all this time,
yeah,
like, when I was a kid up until college,
yeah,
I wasn't recognizing the signs. I was just like, "Oh, head in the clouds," that kinda thing, and I
yeah.
had friends, at University of Michigan, they're like, this is obvious racism." I'm like, "Oh, really?" So it's nice to be able to recognize it, but then,
Yeah.
I could feel some other people might say, "Well, why recognize it? Why not live in the clouds and be happy? So why
Oh,
know about it?"
oh, my favorite question I heard. So I was just the way that I package this is to say there is perceived and received discrimination. So a lot of our literature will ask, do you perceive discrimination to be around you? And sometimes that is tough to identify because
Mhm.
it's in the water, it's in the air, it's everywhere. If I walk out of my street right now in Harlem and the trash isn't picked up, if there are buildings that are eroding, if there are things that I'm witnessing that are different here versus
Mhm.
my trek down to 34th or 42nd in Midtown, that's a structural level issue that sometimes I might miss because it's
Yeah,
not being
yeah.
done to me, right? There's nothing
Right.
happening to me, but that is impacting my quality of life.
Mhm.
I say that because, again, to your point, maybe people aren't perceiving the racism or discrimination around them, but
Yeah.
the receiving of that same uptick in cortisol level
Mhm.
or decrease in ability to sleep or
Mhm.
up um uptick of how much I'm eating, like, these things, how they impact our physiological, our cognitive, all
Excellent.
of these other types of factors, that's how we receive it and embody it, how
Mhm.
it comes from parent to child, right? How it's
Mhm.
in the ether from the media to us. We may not see it, but our heart rate sure does,
Mm.
our telomere length sure does, our cognitive capacity, all of these things have received the influence of it. So you could go ahead and not talk to your kiddo about it, and they can still be impacted by it, but what the talk does is create a buffer
Yeah,
to what is happening to them,
so
so
they can
instead of
know.
that straight line coming at their mental or physical health, you're able
Mhm.
to create a shield or a buffer that's like, "No, no, not so directly, not so harsh. We're not coming at you that hard. We're creating a way to thwart that negative impact."
Well, yeah, it's good for people to recognize it because then they're not gonna if they can control it, continue to be that victim. It's kinda like with
Mhm,
bullying, like, you're
mhm.
not gonna let that person continue to be bullied. If
That's
they
right.
recognize it's happening, they'll do something about it. They recognize a macroaggression, they could do something about it, so it's nice for them to know. And going back to the talk, when you were saying that, you help people feel more comfortable, especially parents feel more comfortable, and I was thinking about that, I was like, I feel like more people well, maybe not everybody like this, but I feel like more people are more uncomfortable talking about sex with their kids than racism. But I'm speaking about my personal family. We talk about we talk about it a lot. We're just like, "Oh, yeah, that was this, that, and the other just happened." And
Yeah.
maybe because 'cause I'm a psychiatrist, I feel more comfortable, but
Maybe,
but
maybe, you know.
I'm just like, "Whatever, that's because you black, son, I got three black boys I'm raising, so we gotta put it like it is."
But let me dig into that just a
Yeah.
baby bit too, right? because the way that we in our research lab talk about it is through a lens of competency, right? So the question is, can we unpack rather than making a declarative statement to our kiddo that something is racist, which is important to do, to name, right? What then would it be for us to say, "And how did that make you feel? What is it that you would like
Yeah.
to do about that?" How can we create more skill-based, like, reducing our stress as a parent? How can we help our children along this continuum of competency to say, "What other things can we do besides just name?" Name is the
Mhm.
start,
Mhm. Just
and what did that feel like? What do you wanna be able to do? Exactly to your point, I wanna ensure that our young people feel agency. So not
mhm.
just sitting there like, "Dang, this racist, person did this thing to me." Yes, step 1, it is racism, and the law tells me that you're not able to do that, and so I'm gonna continue my way to school, be blessed. That's the
Mhm,
agency
mhm.
that I have. Or this teacher just said something reckless to me, I'm gonna write a letter to my principal
That's
detailing what
good.
that was. I'm gonna pull my parent in, I'm gonna pull my coach in. These are the
Mhm.
things that I can do with agency now that I have awareness of what this thing is.
Yeah, and it's giving them that empowerment, giving them what to do, and I would imagine resources too, because
Yeah,
when people are discriminated against, they really just don't know what to do, and not knowing what to do, they lose that power, and then that leads into the mental health and mental illness that comes about. So,
yeah,
let's talk about the mental illness that comes about with being discriminated, and then, of course, feeling unempowered.
yeah. I mean, it's so funny because I see this theoretical and, like, conceptual model as you're talking. You've already said it really beautifully, right? So, we know discrimination attacks our ability to cope with something. So how
Mhm,
what strategy do we employ or deploy? That's how we
mhm.
would think about coping. And
Yeah.
once that's knocked out, once you're like, "Well, shoot, I don't even know what to do. I feel paralyzed. I feel stuck. I don't this is not like me. I'm typically really good at handling stress, but this
Mhm.
right here feels different," right? So now I feel a bit paralyzed, and that paralysis can make me internalize. So now these thoughts are bouncing
Yeah.
back in my head like I should have done this or this person. Now I can't sleep.
Yeah.
I'm ruminating. I'm hyper vigilant. I'm now sad. I'm losing sleep. I'm eating more. I'm doing all of these things that just cascading outcomes. It's just so much eating away at my mind with depression, anxiety, stress, and trauma. Those are the 4
Yep,
biggies for the
yep.
outcomes, but then again, my body is being impacted, like we've already said a number of times, by all of these physiological outcomes. So it's you've the line is right there
Yeah.
from discrimination to coping to outcomes. That
Yeah.
straight line is right there.
Yeah, and those symptoms you listed are pretty much post-traumatic stress disorder symptoms, and we're talking about
Absolutely.
traumatic racism or racial trauma,
Yeah.
so it is a trauma, and we've talked about that here on Journey to Joy Live a lot about racial trauma, and it's real, it is
Yeah.
happening, and a lot of people avoid certain things because they're just like, "I don't wanna deal with it," like avoiding the news, avoiding what's going on in the White House, or any
Yeah.
political thing that's going on. What do you say
Yeah.
about the avoidance? Do we have to take it in doses? Is it okay to avoid certain things?
Yeah, it's so let's go back to that word coping that we just talked about, right?
Mhm, mhm.
So there are strategies that some people may call adaptive or like promotive types of coping, and some that are maladaptive, right?
Yeah.
So when we think about adaptive, that's often solution oriented. What are the things that I want to do to attend to this thing? What would make me feel better? Maybe not even in the moment, right? Maybe it'll take me some time to get to it, but what will ultimately have me approach this problem and find a solution to this problem? Versus avoidant oriented coping, which is I don't see it, I'm not gonna deal with it, I'm just gonna sweep it under the rug. Right. So when you say avoid, we very literally know that with discrimination, two things happen. One, I will choose avoidant strategies more often than not as
Mhm,
a Black person. So Black people
mhm.
tend to choose avoidant strategies more often than not. And the second thing is even within myself. So even if we're just looking at a Black person by themselves,
Yeah.
I choose more avoidant coping with this particular stressor relative to others.
Yeah.
right? So Black people tend to choose avoidant coping only when we're talking about discrimination, and when we're talking about discrimination, I make different choices
Mm.
than I would with other stressors. So it's a unique stressor that attacks the way that we cope with it. All right, you didn't ask me all that, but I had to say it.
No,
But
good.
super quick, what you're saying about not watching something or, like, going around a topic, I don't call that avoidant as much as, like, protecting your peace, right? So,
Thank you.
there are some things that if they come at your face, if you're involved in it, if you wanna make a choice around, avoiding needing to get into the space, those are 2 different things.
Yeah.
Your boss saying something to you that you now need to tend to,
Yeah.
we gotta find a solution to that.
You can't
You
avoid that.
looking at your phone, though, and watching the meme that just hit last Friday, right? Like, I refuse to watch that. I'm not watching oops, come on.
Ah, that's so funny.
Apple, you better give me fireworks for what I said. Thank you. I gesticulate, and it always does that, so I'm gonna try
Yeah,
like,
I
sit on
know.
my hand.
Yeah, that's so
But
funny.
but, you can choose what you want to expose yourself to and walk into, and that is very different than, "I have a discriminatory situation in front of me that I need to
Yeah.
attend to." I
Yeah.
have learned to stop watching these videos, baby, because
Mm-mm.
ain't nobody got time for that. What do I
Mm-mm.
need to watch the killing of somebody else for? What's it gonna teach?
Never, because that's why is trauma for anybody, and for us in the mental health profession, I hear all that about stuff anyway. Why am I gonna watch that? And I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm not working. I don't have my psychiatrist hat on. I was just scrolling to my phone today and came up with something. I was like, What is this?" I'm like, "Get off
It's
my
too much.
phone."
It's too much.
So it
Yeah.
is okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to go back because I remember I was gonna ask you, you were talking about perceived racism and received racism, and you were saying, like, basically, maybe, someone doesn't perceive it or realize it's happening, but they receive it because it
Yeah.
is happening and it happens in their body, and it changes, some type of mental health physiology that's going on.
Yeah.
So what if it is maybe the opposite where
Mhm.
it's not happening, so technically, they're not receiving it, I guess you could say, but they perceive it even though it's not happening. I have an example,
Yeah.
and I don't mind sharing this. I'm obviously a Black psychiatrist, and I literally get into this weirdness not weirdness, I don't know the word. I guess it's perceived some type of perception
Mm.
when I might have, white patients or white parents to my children, and I'm just like, "They're thinking certain things about me." You're like, I have to be this extra smart
Mm.
person
Mhm.
and I'm usually
Mhm.
myself when I see my patients.
Mhm.
But I kind of feel like I need to be a little bit different, when I'm
Mhm.
with them. So it's like this perceived, racism with it when maybe they're not even thinking anything of it. They're just like, "Ooh, cool, Black doctor."
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so there's a different lens that we can use to describe what's happening here relative to perceived and received. If we're looking at the different types of racism that exist, most people know about interpersonal. So somebody's doing something to me. That's like a classic discrimination definition, right? So a one to one, or I go into a store, someone says, "Take your hoodie off. You look like a thug." That's
Mm.
discrimination one on one, right?
Mhm, mhm.
Then we already talked about some of the structural level things. You go outside in Harlem, it's different here than it would be in Midtown. Okay, so that's
Mhm, mhm.
structural. Institutional, a school won't allow people to wear locks when they're wrestling, right? So that's an institutional level problem where maybe it's not happening
Yeah.
everywhere and maybe it's not between two people, but that specific institution made a law or a rule policy that is impacting people differently.
Mhm.
What you're describing is the most fundamental, which is internalized
Mhm.
racism. So it
Mm.
it doesn't even require a policy or another person or a structure.
Mhm.
It is what we have been conditioned to believe or know about the ways that people perceive us. So, yes, that is going to spark I think of this all the time and for a different reason because as a mixed and light skinned person
Mm.
who, for example, I had a op-ed hit this week that and the title was like, "As a Black psychologist, da 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 da,"
Mhm,
and
mhm.
I was like, "Ooh, what am I gonna get emailed with this time?" Or what if they see the picture of me and they're like, "Well, she's not
Mhm.
black enough," or that we have all been conditioned because whiteness is a
Yeah.
thing that has taught people about what is the ideal and what do people believe about people that don't look like this ideal. Like,
Mhm.
we've all had to learn about this condition and everything around it,
Mhm.
and so that internalized racism shows up in so many different ways for us and clouds our clarity, our ability
Mhm.
to be present, to think straight, to
For
execute,
sure.
the way that we would want to. That's the job of racism, to slow us down,
Yeah.
to keep us mentally fraught, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it comes from personal experience, it comes from the experience of our ancestors, of our
Absolutely.
family members who've told us about, well, this, when grandma, she had to pee on the side of the road, she couldn't even
Exactly.
go to the rest area, I remember stories like that.
Yeah,
We driving down south and, "Oh, I remember this." I'm like, "Okay." And so, just all that cumulative experiences around
yeah,
for people around us, what we see on
yeah,
the news, it, like, creates these biases that we might have in our head, or there might be, like, actual legit. But
yeah.
how do we not allow that to get to us? Do we all need therapy? Do we need to take the embrace approach? How do we
Yeah. It's so funny. In my office, there's a framed article, my first one that of, like, a major thing that hit when I was living in Philly. When we were developing Embrace and someone was doing a story on us, the question asked, "Does being Black," or the media, headline asked the question, "Does being Black require therapy?" And I was like, "That's not we didn't say we didn't say that. I'm not very comfortable with that." But then when you open it up, it says, "Does being Black in America require therapy?" And I was like, "Well, see, that context is important because I would argue, yes, that we should all be getting some good old
Mm,
therapy
mm,
to unpack."
mm.
Because therapy, if you think about it, is 1 hour out of 168 of the week
Yeah.
that you're able to say, "I need to unpack some stuff
Mhm.
that's been on me." So, yes, I would actually say that whether it's traditional therapy, the 1 hour,
Yeah.
group-based stuff, sound baths, your own bath spot, like, whatever that
Pepper reset,
therapeutic
massages.
Reiki, like,
Mhm.
whatever that moment, that therapeutic moment is for you to be able to stop and acknowledge, even though I have a whole MD and I'm whole respected in my field and, like, I have a whole podcast, even though I have all of these things, I still walk into spaces and feel small.
Isn't that something? And that's also imposter syndrome creeping in
Yes,
too.
yes. So,
Mhm.
like, all right, we take that nugget and we see it, we make it real, and
Yeah.
then we toss it, right?
Right.
And if it comes back, we pick it right back up and we're like, "I thought I got
Mhm.
rid of you last time." You're
Yeah.
able to make
Mhm.
sense of it versus I am spending so much time not focusing on anything of myself that these things keep coming up and now they're building
Mhm.
in my body, in my mind, and that's where I didn't realize that weight was coming from. I didn't realize that literal weight, right?
Mhm.
I didn't realize that my inability to sleep was because this line of thought just keeps going through my head, and I haven't stopped for a moment to
Mhm.
acknowledge it and
Yep.
say and challenge it.
Yep. Yep.
Is that the case? Is that true? And maybe it'll take a few times for you to ask yourself that question to be able to get to a no, but you're never gonna get there if you don't pause for a moment.
Stop. And
Yeah,
that we talk about that a lot, that stop, that reset, to self-reflect in order to get to that sense of self-awareness so you can know, like, what's affecting me? What are my triggers? Is this
yeah,
really affecting me? Is this a perception? Am I really receiving this? It's very important, and so if therapy is gonna help you get through that, cool, but maybe just hanging with some girls can help you get that, or just being by yourself with your journal can help you get through that, so that's
absolutely.
important. So let's talk about Black joy. Is that an oxymoron? I'm gonna say no right away. Because based on what you just said, being Black in America, do we need to have therapy? It's almost like, well, being Black, can you have joy? But we know we can experience joy. I know I experience joy all the time, but from
Yeah.
you, what is Black joy?
Oh, it's such a good question at this moment too. I just was at NYU with the professor yesterday. Shout out to Dr. Lauren Mims at NYU who studies this Black joy concept. And I was asking her in her
Mm.
lab, like, is it possible to talk about joy and skip over racism? Because I ground everything in my America is this racist place and
Yeah.
right? And we can be happy and joyful and
Yeah.
blah, blah.
Yeah.
And so I was asking her, like, am I always, like, going to a negative place? Am I, like is it necessary to do this? And her lab indicated, like, it's important to be honest and truthful about where we
Yeah.
are in
Yeah.
America. And yes, it is okay to then exude joy and to find
Yeah.
happiness and to be well. And that's if Black people ain't joyful, then I don't know who is. I don't know who has been able to create art form after art form after art form and say, "This was meant to break us in half."
Mhm.
And we take those 2 pieces and make a
Mhm.
tambourine and cut like, I just haven't seen
Mhm.
anything like it
Yes,
where
resilience.
it's a resistance to everything
Mm.
that was designed to crush us. I talked to you about the book that I'm trying to write, and I'm doing this historical dive, and I'm looking at all of the things that should have, in theory, taken out Black people
Yeah.
across the planet or, in the United States. In 1865 in the United States,
Mhm.
the intention to be to not have intention on what was going to happen on June 20th.
Mhm.
So June 19th, finally, you get to
Yeah.
this place, and for the record, that was not the last place that people, were free from enslavement, but we'll talk about that another day.
Right.
But on June 19th, people were like, "Oh, snap, I'm free." What did we do on June 20th to
Mm-mm. Yeah, I
ensure
agree.
that people would be well, could eat, have an income, have a place to live? There was no intention on that. So in theory, if you're telling me that on June 20th, 1865, every single Black person in this country had to get it out the mud, had to figure out everything on their own, had to still engage in these leasing
Yeah,
agreements that essentially sold their children back into an enslaved
exactly.
apprenticeship, eh, convict leasing, KKK, wet nursing, like, every single thing that I write about, and I'm like, "And dang, we still are here beautiful, resistant, joyful, artistic, creative, teaching you how to get
Yep,
through this very moment in
yep.
US history because 'cause we've been there before and we've done it." Like, heck yeah, we're joyful. Heck
I
yeah.
love it. So
Yeah.
Black joy is resilience, it's resistance, is I'm
Yes.
gonna get through this no matter what. And
Yes.
thinking about June 20th, 1865, like I can imagine they were legally free and liberated, but
Oh,
it
yeah.
had took some time to get liberated in the mind. And of course, there's so many people that's probably not obeying the law out there and still wasn't freeing people. So it's just like, oh, there was
Absolutely.
so much going on back then. I could not imagine.
Yeah.
But yes, there is Black joy. We have it. And the same way, like, can you have joy after grief? Can you have joy after severe trauma, racial trauma, whatever thing that you are battling? Yes, you can have it, but it's almost like this not alternate universe, this dual universe type mentality where it's like I can feel pain, but I can feel joy. I can experience the loss and grief, but I can feel joy. I can experience being discriminated, but I can feel joy. And that's why I believe that joy isn't just an emotion, it's a choice and it's a state of mind,
Yeah.
which is how you can do that. So do
Absolutely.
people come to you and then talk about how they can have this sense of like, I'm at joy, I'm at peace, but I'm also dealing with this at the same time over here?
I haven't heard that explicitly, but this is So less about my work as a
Mhm.
therapist in this domain and more about just like moving through environments. So
Mhm.
again, I keep talking about Harlem because Harlem is a character now in my everyday story. I walk outside and I see her and I navigate her.
Mhm.
And when I hear children just bust out in laughter and like, playing with each other. And I see people who walk by and they're always saluting each other and just like acknowledging each other's existence. There's so many micro moments of joy that I see every day when the world is falling apart in my mind.
Yeah.
And there's so much going on around them. And yet, and still, right? It's like all of these narratives that we know about rising, about resisting, about
Mhm.
being um joyful in the midst of it all. I see it every day. So they don't necessarily come to me as clients in that way, but I get a front row seat to
Yeah.
it every day.
Oh, that's really good. So we're pretty much talking about, like, how to transfer racial stress into racial strength.
Mhm.
And, and thinking about the talk, thinking about the embrace approach, what does the process look like, in order to transfer that stress into strength, and how do Black families reclaim this joy that we're talking about in the face of ongoing challenges?
Yeah, love that, and thank you for that question. So it's interesting because we actually go the other way with it. We start with Black strength as the foundation of anything that we're about to talk about. So session 1 is all about, tell me about what your family is like, what your, people are like, what joy you have, like, talk to us about
Mhm.
what is good for you, because 'cause we're about to get in some tough stuff in session 2. And I
Mhm.
need that background to know that you're gonna be able to handle that, and that we're not coming into session 1 like everything's bad, you're gonna struggle. Like, we don't want to build up a narrative that the world is already telling you about. So
Mhm.
we start with,
That's
talk to us about what's good, what's joyful, what is, um, what's going well.
Yeah, what's going well? We all That's the first thing as doctors that we do. We sit down, "Tell me what your concerns are. What
Yeah.
brings you here to the
What
clinic? What
brings
brings you here to therapy?"
Mhm.
And need to just talk about all the negative things. So
Yeah.
if only we just started with, "What's going well? When was the
Yeah.
last time you bounced back from a challenge?" Or, "What
Yeah.
makes you feel strong? What's going
Yeah.
right?" And it's like,
Yeah.
oh, and I do end up having to get to that with, parents, especially if I see that a child is progressing very well and the parent is just saying all the negative stuff. I'm,
Yeah.
"Okay, okay, okay, stop with that. Tell me something positive about the
Yeah.
child,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
tell me something positive about yourself if it's that person being so negative." So
Yeah.
that's a really good, I'm glad you start that way.
We do with, like, songs like "Say It Loud, I'm Black and I'm Proud," and we'll play it, and it's just like,
Yeah.
what does that bring up for you? How do you feel about, um, hearing stuff like this? So then in our next session, we'll get to this concept of preparing for bias, and it's just like, "All right, things are actually happening out in the world. Talk to us about what it is that you're seeing. What are some of the current skills that you have to deal with that?" So that we know we've got a few more sessions to build up on some of those skills that we wanna integrate into our conversation. So really from there we build out, here are the different ways that families often talk about it. Sometimes they pile a lot, as you were just saying, of negative things onto kiddos, and we want to make sure that we have a balanced approach.
Yeah.
So now talk to us about what it would be like to pull back a little bit from what you just said, or
Mhm.
like, what did you notice when you said that? Was your kid kind of like in tears or kind of cringing when you just cut
Mm.
somebody out because of what you perceived as a negative racial encounter, right? And then the last one is just really challenging this idea of color blindness or egalitarianism.
Oh,
Like, there are gonna be
pretty color.
some people in this world who say, we're all equal, like, it's nothing's happening. Again, if you got the person in the highest office in the United States that is trying to convince you that you should not be concerned about the things that you're seeing around you, this is an intentional attempt to make you feel okay with being dehumanized, right? And
Mhm.
so we are just very clearly like, "No, no, here are some of the things that people will try to do, and let's name it again so that you have the skills to say, 'Actually, I think that that is racist, and here's why,'" right? Um,
Right, and that's why I have to use humor. Like, you see me laugh,
oh,
I'm just
yeah.
like, "It's ridiculous."
It's
Like What?
We
It's some of this stuff that's going on.
we know it's ridiculous, and that is introducing an entire new group of young people who may not have ever seen this stereotype or trope, and now they're like, "Wait a minute, this thing that's how people see us as animal?" Like, the for people c imagine, for whom
Mhm.
Obama was their president and they grew up with that and they had that pride, and now you're seeing that same person
Mhm.
devalued, dehumanized by someone who continues to say negative things about your people, like, that can wipe away so much of the joy that people had without even knowing you may not even
Yeah.
recognize that
Yeah.
it's impacting you in that way. So it's really important to, yes, laugh and say, "This man is really trying it,
Yeah, and it
and
ain't
it's
gonna
not gonna
work.
work. It's not gonna work."
I mean, but you also see it everywhere how they love us. Like, as far as, like, our beauty, we're pretty awesome. I think of movies like Get Out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
totally wanted to be a that kinda thing,
Yeah.
and not to make this all about, like, we're amazing, y'all just hate us because you wanna be us. I'm not trying to make it that, but that's also a positive affirmation too. If something you
Yeah.
think about internally that makes you feel better,
Yeah.
cool, but whatever it takes to change some negative thoughts to positive thoughts just so you can heal mentally because
Yeah.
our mental health or mental illness can obviously lead to physical illness and stress,
Yeah.
and you're just gonna die sooner. So that's why joy is important.
Absolutely. And that's exactly right. Like, in our sessions, we laugh a lot. We have music, we do creative stuff. Like, it's not a doom and gloom approach because that's not
Yeah.
generally how Black people are. Like, we love a good key. We love a good, like, moment to release, and so we try to think about what are the culturally responsive ways that we can bring this type of therapy into the
Mhm.
lives of Black people, right?
Yeah.
A very authentic experience, and so, yeah, you definitely gotta laugh from crying, and I think sometimes, but I also there one thing that we've been talking about that I just wanna make sure that I'm naming,
Mhm.
like, sometimes Black people take on so much without identifying, like, "Alright, I'm at my max now," like, yes, I might say, "Well, God don't put more on me than I can handle," but, like, if
Mhm.
I were to be truthful with myself right now, this is a little more than I can handle, and I know I've been taught
Mhm.
to just grin and bear, I know I've been taught to just pray, I know I've been taught to do all of these things because I'm Black and I'm either a strong Black woman or a strong Black man, and we have our different and this is not to exclude
Mhm.
anyone that is not, on, identifying in those ways, those are just the
Yeah.
stereotypes that we have in our literature about, like, we're just gonna keep moving and end up harming ourselves in the
Yeah.
process, physically,
Don't get
psychologically.
help, ask for help.
Yeah, right? So I do just wanna name, like, yes, laugh, yes, joy, yes, unpack, yes, all these things,
Yeah.
and, like, we do have to really name when it is important for us to get help, to stop,
What the hell?
to say, "This is a little too much for me right now."
Yeah, to get the therapy that you need, or if you need a
Yeah,
medication, get the medication. I see a lot of Black people, they didn't realize they would get to that point where they're seeing a psychiatrist and they're scared and they don't know what's gonna happen. Like, "It's okay. It's alright. Just because you're seeing me don't mean you're gonna be on a medication. If you are, it doesn't mean you're gonna be on it for the rest of your life."
yeah,
Now, you did mention earlier that something's gonna start in a couple weeks. What is that
embrace,
your research? And your
yeah.
embrace
So
so and you said you're looking for people, so tell us more about that if they're in the area.
Hi, if you're a 10 to 14-year-old Black child, or you're a parent of a 10 to 14-year-old Black child, and you want to learn some strategies to talk to your family about race and racism, just holler at me. I'm at TheEMBraceProgram at gmail.com, and we would just love to enroll you and your family for a free 5-week program where we have snacks, good conversations, kiki. We're having a good old time. So holler at me.
That's dope. Okay, I'm glad I asked about that again. And it is just in New York or a specific area in New York or
Yeah, so we are lovingly serving Harlem residents right now. We have done things online before, and we do train people in different areas. So we work with Howard University in DC, Lurie in Chicago. So there are definitely ways to access this program at different spaces. But right now, the thing that's starting in 2 weeks is connected to Columbia here in New York.
Super excited, super proud of you for doing this research.
And
And
shout out to my community partner, the Hope Center. We love them too. Thank you
hey,
so much.
Hope Center.
Mhm.
And you can find Dr. Rihanna at rianaelyse.com. Tell us what's there. Do you have a private practice? Is it your podcast? Is it
You
all
know,
involved?
we're not seeing individual clients right now, but I'm always happy to chat with folks. So on the website, you can find information about the research. You can definitely see all of my media work. You can see some of the tech stuff that we've done. All of my publications are there. So
Mm,
definitely
mhm.
check us out online.
Dope. And as well as Instagram at Rihanna Elise. You have a lot of different videos there, very informative mental health wellness videos. Super
Thank
awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on the Journey to Joy Live. Really appreciate it. I did want to, oh yeah, there was one more question.
Let's do
So
it.
for so
Let's
for,
do it.
for people who are watching because they're just like, "Oh my god, I don't know what to do. Let's talk, these conversations, how do I do this?" Especially during Black History Month, maybe they wanna start these conversations now because why not? Is there one practical step that they can take this week to get that started? This
Can I give
healing?
them 3? But they're
Okay,
quick. They're
let's do
quick and
3,
they're quick
okay.
and easy. Okay, 3 things. So the first thing's you gotta talk to yourself. Before you have to talk with anybody else, you gotta talk to yourself. You gotta remember or feel the things that you didn't like when it was happening with you or what the world is telling you that you wanna check before you pass on to somebody else. You got to do some work with yourself. Write that thing out. Talk to a partner. Talk to the mirror. Do whatever you need to do to practice a bit of what it's gonna be like when you actually engage in it. Then you wanna think about what are the things you will want to use when you're having that talk. So sometimes it's just our own voice, and that's totally
Mhm.
fine. But sometimes it's resources. You wanna pull in a video clip, you wanna pull in a song. Give some thought to what that might be. Again, on our website, on a lot of different websites of folks that I've been working with over the past few years, we've put together all of these resource pages of what you can do to have this conversation and what types of tools you can use. So definitely think about, is there a song that sparks a conversation? I'll give you one quick free resource.
Mhm.
The episode of Blackish where the family is sitting around, it's called Hope, if I'm not mistaken. They're watching Obama's inauguration and they're having a conversation on the
Yeah.
couch about the fear that they have that
Mm,
he's going to be exposed to
present.
violence. Right?
Oh,
So that's a really good episode to
remember that
tune
one.
in, but it exists everywhere. Music, songs, it's everywhere. Okay, so have the talk with yourself first. Think about what resources that you're gonna need, and the third thing is listen after you talk. So your kids know a lot more than you think they do. They have the answers. You'll be surprised that they're gonna talk to you, and you're gonna learn some stuff. So in
Mm.
your talk, ask questions. What is it that you've noticed? How is it that you're feeling? And sit back and actually listen to what your kiddos have to say.
I'm so glad you said that because it reminded me of something that he's 5 now, but I think he was 3 when he would say this. And I was putting him to bed, and he's a little lighter than me, but obviously a black boy. And he says, "Mommy, I don't like my brown skin. Why do I have to be brown? Nobody else in my class are brown." Or he said something like that. It was something like that. And I was just like, "Oh." And I was just like saying, "Oh, like, you're so beautiful, it doesn't matter what color you are." I said all the things, and, like, ever since then, there was this I actually literally have a book on Black Boy Joy. Yep, Black Boy Joy, I think that's
Mhm.
what it's called, and we would read that every day, and it only took a couple weeks, and then he says, "Mommy, I love my skin." I'm just like,
Yeah.
'cause that was scary
Yeah.
because, when they go to whatever school they go to, right? But especially schools they're in private school. So, especially, like, certain schools, they're gonna be around a diverse population, so
Yeah.
it's they can, yeah, get
Yeah.
exposed and start creating some types of things. But, yes, anyway, listen to your kids. That's it.
Listen. And I'll just because you brought that up, I'll say this and then we can for real stop talking because
I know. Go
we're not
fast
gonna eat
for it.
dinner. We need it. Y Doctor can I call you Dr. Joy? I just wanna throw
Call
in
me Dr. Joy. Yeah, Dr.
okay.
Enjoy, Dr. Joy.
Um we have this conception that, "Oh, my kids aren't gonna get it until they're older." But you just talked about something that happened at 3, and that is so developmentally appropriate. They say it in different ways, right? You'll catch it like, "Oh, these folks must drink chocolate milk," especially for white kids who are starting to notice
Mhm.
difference. They'll say maybe
Mhm.
they're drinking chocolate milk, but you'll see choices of crayons. You'll see the ways that young people are starting to make sense of how this world works with difference. 3 years old is when these young people are starting to make
No.
sense of this, so you really can't, quote, "wait until these kiddos are 14 to start having
Mm-mm.
conversations." You can bring in developmentally appropriate stuff. I always talk about Starburst, so if you can see a kid starting to do this with Starburst because nobody liked the yellow ones and they put them all the way over there, which is the
Uh-huh.
correct answer to this, except I have a best friend who doesn't, and they're weird. Anyway, but yellow goes over there, and then the pinks, obvious that's the
Yeah,
one,
yeah.
the reds and the pinks. If your kiddo is doing that, they get the concept of discrimination, and they're ready to have
Mm.
the talk.
Yep, yep, yep,
You
yep,
know? They're
yep,
ready.
yep. That's
So talk.
good.
So talk.
Good
Last thing I'll
stuff.
say, yeah, so at Riana Elyse on Instagram, but also you can find me on YouTube. So I have a show on YouTube, Dr. Rian NYC. So
Ooh.
youtube.com/Riana Elyse. Find me there, and we're gonna have this episode on there too. We're gonna cross
Hey,
those.
yes,
Yeah.
we will. Sounds great. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Hang
thank
on
you,
for
thank
just a second after the outro, and goodbye, everyone watching. Thank you
you.
for
Okay,
watching.
bye.
This has been an Enjoy Life production. If you're in a crisis, don't hesitate. Call, text, or chat 988 for immediate support. Please note, this podcast is for informational purposes only and is not a substitute for professional treatment. If you're looking for therapy or medication management through Enjoy Life, visit www.drenjoylife.com to request a consultation. I'm licensed in 13 states. I accept Aetna in Georgia, Florida, and Virginia. Be sure to grab your copy of the Enjoy Note to help you on your wellness journey. Also, check out Inspire Joy for the wife, mom, boss to help you balance it all without losing yourself. Better yet, get the full Joy bundle for just $45. Remember, Journey to Joy Live is every Thursday at 7 p.m. Thank you for joining me, and until next time, may you continue to transform stress into joy.